Office of the Superintendent Agenda Board Workshop. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the meeting will be held via Zoom video conference for participants. Viewers will be able to watch the North Rock Facebook page live stream. And again, this is a workshop. Those of you that have never been a part of our workshop, this is where administrators come in to present their proposals. We do not vote on anything, but we listen. And then as a board, we will have nine days to act upon anything before our board meeting. So again, this is our workshop, and there is no need to call a roll for presence. And thank you very much. At this time, we have on here the LE number for the North Rock Academy, and Dr. McGee, his name is at the presenter, but I will call each board member to have their expression to see if it be carried further. At this time, Dr. McGee, would you present?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. I do not have the data that's ready to present. I do apologize, but I am asking the board that if they will allow us more time with this. We just feel like we need to prioritize. We got to get ready, close out school. You know, there's some things we got to get done to get ready for the fall. The ADE is asking us to be prepared in the event that we do not start normal. We had a very good team meeting. It's just taking a lot of time to get ready to close out, making sure our building is ready, making sure that we have another plan in the event that we do not start back in a normal schedule. So I am asking the board to allow us to delay this until we can at least get ready for the school and get school going, and then come back and collect all of the facts and data to present to the board. I do think that we just need to make sure that we are thorough and ready for our students and kids.
Thank you. Ms. Campbell, did you have a comment?
I don't have a problem. Charlie had had it on the LEA number before. We took it away thinking it would help me.
Yeah, can't hear Sandy. Can't hear you, Sandy.
Okay. Okay.
And then do that right there.
Okay. Charlie had his own LEA number when I first came on the board. And the reason that we decided to take it away from him was to see if it would help him. As we have found out, it has not helped, it has hindered.
Okay, Mrs. Huggins, do you have a comment?
No, I'm just listening right now.
Okay, Dr. Redis, do you have a comment? Mrs. Steele? Ms. Temple? I'm sorry.
Tracy, what'd you say?
No, I said, did you have a comment on the statement that Dr. McGee just made?
Yes, I do. I would like to hear from the principal and the vice principal and some of the outstanding teachers that we have at the academy to see how they feel about it, and any members of the community that are interested in that before we just arbitrarily decide to move forward. I would like to see a little more data and research. Sandy mentioned that we did it back then for one reason, and then it didn't work, and so now we may need to look at going back. I like a little more data and what are the actual specific reasons that it did not work. I mean, what happened? But mainly I'd like to hear from the principal, the vice principal, and the staff there.
Okay. Ms. Temple?
Yeah, I'd just like to know pros and cons.
Okay.
You know, but he hasn't had a chance to gather that data, so I'm fine with that.
Okay. Ms. Walker?
I'm good with data collecting. They need their own LEA no matter what, but I'm good with listening to pros and cons, but they need to stand on their own 2 feet.
Okay. And as me speaking, I feel that we should wait till we get some data and even the process, and that we're seeking a new superintendent, maybe at that time, whomever we hire may have a plan for ALE. So we can look at that option, because right now we have so many things that we need to be concerned about, which is our students' health, trying to get back in school. And so at this time, it is agreed upon, everybody, that we will just wait until data is presented to us. Thank you. At this time, Dr. McGee, no, I'm sorry, 2020 Elementary Virtual Summer School Proposal. Ms. Laura Smith.
Good evening, Ms. Williams, Madam President, and board members. I sent you all information. Since we will not be able to have face-to-face summer school this year, we are proposing that our dyslexic students who are currently engaged in the Lexia program, they will be allowed to continue the program through the end of June. And if any of those students have borrowed a device from their school, they will be allowed to keep those devices through the end of June. Then in addition to that, teachers in grades 2 through 5 have been watching very closely and working with their students. And so they will be turning in a list to us of those students that they feel could benefit as well from the Lexia program. And then we are going to send letters to parents to invite those identified students to participate in the Lexia intervention or virtual platform through June 30th. And again, if these students are currently borrowing a device, they will be allowed to keep that device. All parents, we will, they already have a device contract in place, so that contract will stand until we get those devices back. They will be set up in the program through the end of June. And we are looking at the only cost associated with this would be that we would like to post one teacher. Really, that's all that will be necessary to monitor the student usage and to support parents if parents have questions or if students have questions. The platform is really, really very easy to use. It's very user-friendly. The students that we have on now with the dyslexia students, they are really enjoying the program. Parents enjoy it as well. And so then at the end, we would like to obviously give that student data. We will disaggregate that back into each school, and then we will give that to obviously the parents at the end of the program, and then the principals for them to share with next year's teachers. And then also I will be looking at it from a district standpoint as well to see, kind of how we fared and how those students did on that program. At the bottom of that document that you received talks a little bit about the Lexia Reading Core 5. It talks a little bit about how it really addresses the foundational reading skills, which goes right along with the science of reading that we are doing, and also the RISE initiative. And it is personalized so that they take a little assessment at the beginning, and then it takes them down a path based on the skill area deficits. So it does hit the 5 big areas of the science of reading, which are phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, and structural analysis. I also attached a link there for you to peruse as you have time and take a look at that program. So it is a evidence-based research program, so it is it's solid, and again, they are providing that free of charge to us through the end of June.
Okay, Ms. Campbell, do you have any comment? Ms. Huggins?
This may not be your area. Are we continuing to train our dyslexia interventionists so that everybody will be offered Wilson in the fall?
Okay.
So with the Wilson reading system, is that
specifically?
Yes. We did round 1 this year with I believe about 20 participants, and then this coming year we're planning to get 20 more. And if they actually have the 3-day Wilson reading system, they actually can utilize the program. Obviously, we want them to have the more intense, you know, education with that and professional development. But we are looking to get everybody on the same page with that very, very powerful Wilson Reading System dyslexia intervention.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is Ms. Redis on yet? Okay. Mr. Steele?
Yeah, just one question. How many students are we talking about for this summer, approximately?
So I can let you know that, you know, probably at the end of June. Right now, we don't have a cap because the company has said we can have as many licenses through the end of June. So there really isn't a limit. We're just looking for those students that could use that extra boost and that have been, you know, engaged thus far. So we're hoping to get quite a few.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Temple?
I'm trying to remember, what was the time frame that we had for summer school before this? Was it stop at the end of June or did it go into July?
No, actually, if you'll remember, the proposal was only for 3 weeks. And that was Monday through Thursday. So this is actually, we're getting, I think, a bigger spread of support to students, and then also for a longer period of time. So I think it's a win-win in both situations.
Good, thank you.
Ms. Walker?
Okay, so of course I'm going to ask about the money. Are we going to save money doing this? Are we breaking even?
So if you'll remember, my original proposal was about $50,000. So with the free platform, and really the only thing that we're going to be out is hiring a teacher basically for a month. So in my estimate, yes, we'll be saving money.
Okay. Are there other comments from the board? Okay. I agree with you 100%, Mrs. Smith, and we'll have this discussion at our board meeting. Vote. And thank you.
Thank you.
All right. At this time, we have the secondary summer school update from Dr. McGee.
Good. Thank you, Madam President and board members again. I'm coming. I do not have any document. I sent you guys the grading policy that was reviewed by Arkansas Department of Education, and we reviewed it and revised it. And with that, we believe that summer school is going to be at bare minimum for the secondary. Specifically, the middle school, we believe that we're going to go ahead and continue. We've already placed those kids that are behind on a online platform. 6th grade campus continue to use Summit. 7th to 8th grade campus are using Edgenuity to catch those kids up. So therefore, we do not anticipating having summer school with the middle school this summer at all. However, with the high school, because the kids, again, this is all based on the no educational harm can be done to any kids during this COVID-19, and students get a chance to redo and make up all of the assignments. And because of that, we believe, and the principals asked that we kind of delay any further until they get numbers. The academy doesn't say that will have any kids that need to go to summer school because students are allowed to redo all of the assignments. COE believes that they will have those numbers as well. They do not think they will have, if they have any, it would be very few. The high school seems to think the same thing. So they asked me to kind of wait to see what the numbers are after they get through the seniors this week. And then they can have more numbers to see where if we need to have summer school. And if we do have summer school, it would be at a bare minimum. If you remember, the original proposal was, I think it was like 78,000. We're talking about, I'm talking about bare minimum. If we have summer school, we will have it would be done virtual. Let me make sure that's clear. It will be virtual, but we're talking about 1 or 2 teachers that will give that online platform to those few kids to recover those credits, 9 through 12. So that's where we are. I didn't want to give anything in writing until the principals come back in a meeting. They asked that we wait so they can find out from their teachers how many kids we're talking about that's projected that need to go to summer school. And I support that decision to wait for a few minutes because we don't know right now. With the continuing, the kids can redo and make up all of the assignments. So that's where we are with secondary. summer school update.
Ms. Campbell, you have any comments? Ms. Huggins?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Mr. Steele?
No questions.
Ms. Temple?
Yeah, I'm just curious, do we have any idea how many kids are falling behind this last, since we've gone on the virtual learning? Do we have any idea of where we stand on that in middle school and high school?
That we have a kind of an estimate. There's estimate probably. They didn't give the principals did not give me an exact number. They were trying to get those numbers. There are a few kids that are just not logging on and participating, and with that, because they are not participating, we have again the ADE advised us that no educational harm. So their third quarter grade, their fourth quarter grade cannot go below their third quarter grade. So with that being said, the middle school, their grading is based on their performance for all 4 quarters, and then they average it up. So in a pass or fail. High school, it's based off a semester grade. So if their third quarter grade is a passing grade, and they do not do any of the assignments that can help improve their fourth quarter grade, then they will get their third quarter grade. But if they do the fourth quarter grade work and the grade improves, then they will take that average between those 2 grades, which would be a higher grade for the semester. So we do not have an estimate. Principals did kind of say that it's a hit and miss. Some kids logged on here. They didn't have an exact date, a number. They were trying to compile that with teachers, individual teachers, to say, look, tell me which kids, the number of kids that are just not doing anything. They didn't have that for me, but they were trying to compile it.
Okay, well, here's my concern. I understand the grading process, but if I'm a student and I'm passing at the third quarter and I know that I can't do any worse and I just choose not to participate in the end, how far behind am I? You know, I'm in my algebra class, I miss a whole portion of it and I'm jumping into something else, I'm not going to be ready. So that's what I'm worried about.
We'll totally agree with that. All of us was in agreements with that. However, the communication came out not from us about the no educational harm. We kind of was trying to use that as a motivation to continue on with the learning on the online platform with the fidelity. That's a very good, valid point. That's a point that we all have made since we started this COVID-19, because some kids are just choosing just to say, I'm done. And I think that, again, my position, I agree with you. We want to continue on that they master the learning that needs to take place so that they can move to the next grade level and show mastery. So if I'm a 9th grade taking Algebra 1, we still need them to master those standards in the 4th quarter so they can be ready for geometry when they get to the 10th grade, if that makes sense. So that's why I would totally agree with you on that some of this is just beyond our control. But
I understand it's beyond our control, but I'm saying we need to identify those and give them a chance to make it up this summer so they're not behind. I don't know how any teacher can function if you come in and 3/4 of the class is ready to move forward and a 4th is completely lost. I mean, that's just my concern. I don't know what the answer is, but that's my concern.
Okay. Ms. Walker? Nothing. Okay. Dr. McGee, I want to ask you this. A senior that has 21 credits, is there a way for them to get maybe 2 credits this summer so we can improve our graduation rate?
yes,
Everybody be happy.
Yes, that is exactly what we're doing. They not waiting to the summer. They're actually waiting. They're started now. So principals have given them work to do to work off peak time, like in the evenings, that they can recover those credits. And that's why we think that that the number of kids that need to recover credits will be at a minimum versus that we estimated previously. So they are recovering credits right now as we speak. I'm talking about specifically the seniors.
Okay, before we leave this, any other board members have any comments on this, on the summer school update? If not, thank
No,
you.
Madam President, not on that, but Mr. McGee, have you heard from the people with the ACT test yet? And they
Yes.
rescheduled any testing?
I hadn't heard from her, but I know that Dr. Reynolds and I did visit about where we are with some of the students that are already, the juniors have taken the ACT test. So I will follow up with her to see about the reschedule of the ACT test for those seniors or even underclassmen that want to go ahead and take it. But I will follow up with that.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, we will have our financial overview from Mr. Beardsley, from Beardsley Finance.
Good
Mr.
evening.
Beardsley, come in, please. Good evening.
I've got two items I'd like to go over with the board this evening. One is kind of a high-level financial recap based on your assessment that has now been certified by the Department of Education and will apply for the 2021 school year. Brian Brown was going to circulate it, and I hopefully am going to be able to share my screen here as well. And we can walk through it together. So can you see a spreadsheet instead of my lovely face? Okay, great. So one of the things that we monitor for the school district is a funding projection. And as most of you are aware, in Arkansas, the funding is primarily based on the number of students who attend in the previous school year. So your 2021 funding will be based on the number of students who attended the first 3 quarters of the 1920 school year. And the district is going to start off its funding based on 8,017 students, which is the green line to start off the spreadsheet, which is down 68 students from the previous year. The second item that we look at is your assessment, and the district's assessment went up a little over $14 million from the previous year. And so your assessment is now over $800 million. And keep in mind that really that means that everything in North Little Rock School District is worth $4 billion, and you take 20% of that, and that's the $800 million that you get to charge taxes on. 1 mil in the school district brings in $800,433.68 if everyone pays their taxes. And so the increase of $14 million means that each mil brings in another $14,249 compared to the previous year. And the way that the state funding works is that they look in the blue line on how much are you able to produce locally in North Little Rock on the required 25 M&O mills. And that's just over $19 million. And when you add miscellaneous funds in, that's $19,614,000. That is an increase from last year of $348,000 from the taxpayers in North Little Rock School District. If you divide that by your 8,017 students, that means that locally you can bring in $2,446 per student. The partnership or state foundation aid for 2021 has gone up $119 to $7,018. So the state must give you $4,571 per student. I am using just last year's attendance figures for some of the categorical funding for ALE and English language learners. So those will primarily be static unless the state has changed the funding amount, which they haven't. I want to drop down to declining enrollment. So for this school year, the district is receiving $1,016,000 for the number of students that it lost from the previous year. The state knows that your teachers are already under contract for next school year by the time you start to put your budget together. And so when you lose students, they give you 50% of the funding for the lost students for 1 year. So the district for 1920 is getting $1 million for the students it lost from the previous year. You did not lose as many students this year, so declining enrollment will be $241,000 for 2021, or a loss of $774,000. Does anybody have a question about how declining enrollment is calculated?
Board members, Ms. Campbell? Okay, Ms. Huggins? Okay, Mr. Steele?
Well, my question on that is, you know, with the uncertainty of what's going to happen with COVID-19, how can we, Scott, prepare? Good to see you, by the way. How can we prepare if we have a substantial decrease in enrollment based on a lot of things, primarily that parents are just not feeling comfortable yet as we approach August with sending their kids back to school? So are you saying that the financial resources are already locked in for this coming school year, but that will impact the next school year?
You're exactly correct. The district's funding for 2021 is locked in based on the number of students, and because COVID didn't really occur until the fourth quarter, you will not suffer a financial loss in 2021. However, if you have a loss of students in 2021, it would impact your funding for 21-22. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that North Little Rock will not be the only school district impacted, and the state may have to adjust the formula, but that would be up to the state to change the methodology for calculating partnership.
Yes, and there already has been talk about that, but what are some of the things that we can do if we anticipate that possibly could happen, and a lot more kids are going to opt for homeschooling, and how can we better prepare ourselves in North Little Rock for the worst?
Well, that truthfully is out of my wheelhouse, and anything that I answered would just be my speculation, and I don't have any great ideas to share with the school district.
Okay. Were there other comments? I wanted to ask you, Mr. Beardsley, because I don't know how this keeps popping up, but they say we would be at a loss of $1.4 million. And people ask that question, but I have no answer for it. I know it deals with your average daily attendance of students, but is that an issue? Because there's so much false information out there about our district, and I certainly want that cleared up. And would this come from Brian, or would it come from you? You're not our financial advisor, I understand that. You do everything else as far as our monetary. But what effect would this have on the North Rock School District?
Well, let me try and answer the first part of that, this $1 million deficit or loss of funding. So the state for the current school year is giving the district $1,016,000 in declining enrollment. All other factors remaining the same, your budget for next year would have $1 million less to operate on because you're going to lose that one-time funding from the state. But as we're going through this spreadsheet, not all things remain the same. And the district is benefiting from its tax base going up. It is benefiting that the state is putting more money per child into the formula. And it is getting declining enrollment again in 2021 because you lost students again. So when you take those things into consideration and you look at line 44, which is the orange line at the bottom, the pluses and minuses related to general M&O funding wash out to a very small increase of $53,567. So while the district is losing one category of state funding, it is gaining in some other areas to almost end up with a neutral budget for next year or total available M&O revenue. The challenge is that you have some expenses that will go up in 2021 because you have a stepped salary schedule. And so you will need some revenue to pay whatever Brian calculates is necessary to cover just the steps. And any other expenses that you are expecting to increase for next year due to programs or changes would all have to come from cuts from some other area because you really don't have any new revenue coming in for 2021. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Board members, since you stated that, Ms. Campbell, did you have anything to say? Ms. Huggins? Mrs. Steele?
No, thank you.
Ms. Temple?
Yes, this sheet that you have does not include a bond refinance, correct?
It does not. And I would like to cover that next after I answer any questions on kind of high-level projections for 2021.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Walker? Fine. Oh, I'm fine, and thank you, Mr. Beardsley. Or is there anything else you would like to say to us before we close?
Yes, I would like to touch on what Ms. Temple asked and give you a short update on refinancing your bond issue or potentially going back to the voters later this year. Back in 2013, when we issued the original large bond issue, we began to talk to the board about when we get to the year 2020, there is the possibility of restructuring the existing debt. And it would be similar to a homeowner that wants to refinance their home due to low interest rates and potentially cash out some money to make improvements to their home. And what we previously shared with the board is that with voter approval to extend out the millage 7 years from its existing termination, the district could net out approximately $20 to $25 million for projects and lower its annual debt payment by approximately $1 million. And that's kind of the middle path that we've talked about. Take some of the savings and use them for capital improvements, and take some of the savings, commit them to lowering your annual operating expense. Now, the board could decide that there's no projects that you want to consider at this time and lower the payments by over $2 million a year. Or you could decide that you don't want any savings and you want more money for construction. But in working with Brian and the previous administration, we've tried to strike a path kind of down the middle of giving some benefit to construction and some benefit to operational savings. The district has looked at a September 8th special election. In order for that to move forward, the decision would have to be made by June 30th so that you could publish your proposed budget in your local paper by July 8th. And that gives the voters 60 days notice that you're going to ask them to extend the millage, but not to increase it. Now, given that there have been some changes, that may no longer be the district's timeline. And we can talk about other timelines and how they changed that option. But that's the current timeline from the last time I had direction from the board. And I'd be glad to answer any questions about that.
Does it answer your question, Ms. Temple?
Well, I was told that we weren't going to be able to take it to special election during this COVID stuff. Do you know if that's the case or?
It is currently the Department of Education's position. I have not seen it in writing, but I have been told that they are not going to approve special elections at this time. And so if the district were interested in that timeline, we would need to reach back out to Commissioner Key and see when he's thinking about lifting that and if that timeline would still be available.
Are there other questions from the board members? Ms. Huggins? Mr. Steele?
No.
Ms. Campbell? Ms. Walker?
Yes.
Yes,
Piggybacking Dr. McGee for you for a moment, the first thing seems kind of obvious that we need to pinpoint the students that do not have internet at home so we can retain those students going forward. And Scott, coming back to you, it seems like the ADA, is there a way that we can reach out to them? Is that something we need to ask Dr. McGee to handle, or is that something you handle on our behalf?
I would normally reach out to them on your behalf, and very glad to include Dr. McGee in that. We talk to the Department of Ed on a weekly basis, as I'm sure he does during the pandemic, and just see how hard and fast the rule is. Partly, the slowdown has been that many of the AD employees are working remotely, and just getting things approved and getting them sealed. We're all kind of adapting to that new environment. But I don't have any problem if that's the direction of the board to reach out to the commissioner and get a response on your behalf.
other question?
And Madam President, let me respond to Ms. Walker to your first point about the hotspots. We are looking at the CARES Act funds that we're going to get to purchase Chromebooks with a hotspot in it. And we also are going to look at even adding hotspots to buses and running those buses to neighborhoods and parking so the kids can be able to use those buses as hotspots. So we're looking at that. Mr. Staggers and I are going to try to have a plan ready to present to the cabinet next week, and hopefully we'll be able to present that plan to the board in June. So we're working diligently. That's a part of when I say that we need to focus the attention to get ready for the fall. That is a part of it. The state has asked that our districts have a plan. So we're trying to have a plan that we will have a plan to begin school with normal, and a plan that if we do not have to extend to COVID-19, we must order the laptops and Chromebooks now. We've been told if we do not place that order now, they will not be here in time for August. So Mr. Staggers again and I are planning to follow up with that meeting tomorrow, and then present it to the cabinet, and then maybe we'll again have something ready for the board to look at the very next workshop. But with your approval, we're going to go ahead and continue to move on to order those devices. We've already estimated anywhere between 150 to 300 devices. We're looking at maybe a total of 5 buses or more. We're just looking at trying to be creative and strategic with the money that we're going to get from the CARES Act funding.
I don't think we're in bigger trouble as Little Rock is.
Okay, Ms. Campbell, go ahead. I didn't hear you.
Yes, take it off mute.
I think one of the things that we need to work on is we need to realize that we were better equipped for this than a lot of other districts were. But if we need to order some more Chromebooks, we need to order them.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Any other comments? Ms. Campbell, you just spoke. Ms. Huggins? Mr. Steele?
No questions.
Ms. Temple?
Yes, I just, back to the bond refinance. If we can't do it under special election, can it be done in the November elections, or is that just something that we just don't do?
If you don't have a special election, you're going to be required to have your regular November election. Any board members that are up for re-election, they would normally be voted on in November. You're going to be required to present a millage in November, whether it's no change or the extension. One of the reasons we've talked about a special election was to get away from all the noise that goes on with the presidential election, because the school can't spend taxpayer money to influence the outcome of the election. And when there's so much other advertisements and things going on, would people be able to hear your message? So there was some appeal to getting off of that November date. If you weren't ready to do it in November, then your next time would be January of 2021 to have a special election.
Okay, are there other questions for Mr. Beardsley?
Okay, well, I have a question for the board members, because we had kicked this around and talked about it before, but we never had decided which direction we want it to go. If we want it to go with just lowering the payment, refinancing, or if we, want it to do the millage extension and stuff. So I feel like we need to kind of make a decision on that. So is that what we're saying, that we do want the millage extension? Is that?
Ms. Campbell? You have any comments on that?
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Huggins?
You're not muted.
So Scott's going to check into to the ADE and see if we're going to be able to have a special election, correct?
Yes, ma'am. And I will also update in that if you were just to do a straight refunding, approximately what those savings would be, so that the board has both of those pieces of information before your next meeting.
Okay, Mr. Steele?
Well, I think that's an important question that need to be answered. I think that would have a lot to do with what direction that we as a board go in. If we're going to ask the community to continue to support us, I think before we do that, I think we should have a public hearing. Whether that public hearing is over Zoom with this particular issue put before the people, but I think before we decide even what direction we should go, I think we should have a public hearing. I think, Madam President, I think before the millage was passed, I think that you all as a board, I think those of you may be the only one still serving that was there initially. I don't know about Ms. Campbell was on the board, but I think you began this process with a public hearing, and I think we should do the same and get as much community input as possible on the front end.
Okay. Back to Ms. Temple, you just made the statement for us to address.
I do have another statement or question. Can we go ahead and do the two have to be done at the same time, or can we go ahead and do the refinance and then address the millage issue separate?
Okay, Mr. Beardsley?
They are related. Part of the advantage of extending out the millage would be that the bond issue, the large bond issue that's over $100 million, you could borrow for 30 years. So that either generates more savings or more construction money. If you just do a refinancing for the 23 years, you will net out less. So you may not want to go back to the voters. It won't be as attractive to extend it probably for the next 5 years or so.
Okay, Ms. Walker?
I'm just going to need to look at the numbers in order to make that decision, but I would like for Scott to go to ADE and just ask on our behalf if that's even possible.
Okay, so as the board, as Ms. Temple and are hearing all of us speak, this is something that we do need to address as a board to go forward. What Mr. Beardsley has said, and at our board meeting, we need to do things official, that yay or nay, and go through the process. Is everybody agreeing to that? Because we do not vote on workshop nights. Okay. Is that agreed upon, Mr. Steele?
What specifically? Could you repeat that, Madam President?
I was saying that the board members, we would take this under consideration at our next board meeting.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
We cannot vote tonight, and I was asking Mrs. Huggins. Mrs. Walker had already agreed to that. She felt that it should be done, and Ms. Campbell, that we will make it official of going forth, so Mr. Beardsley will know this.
Yes.
And would that include the public hearing as a part of that?
Mr. Beardsley?
A public hearing is not required, but it's certainly encouraged, and that would be up to the board and the administration on how many and the format for any public meetings.
Would that not be pressing against time? I mean, we're already sitting here in May. So if we did a public hearing or trial, whatever it may be, it just seems like we're pushing ourselves, shooting ourselves in the foot.
And then we have to always consider then board members, we're not asking them to move for more taxes. We just asking them to extend it. And with that thought in mind, even when we have votes, we're definitely gonna have to get a positive word to the community, because when you say taxes, that just hit a stone wall to everybody. But we need to do whatever we need to do to let our stakeholders how important it is for us to move forward in the district. And this is what we need. We're not asking you for more money. We're just asking you to, could we still move forward with the money we're getting? Is that a clear statement, Mr. Beardsley?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Mr. Beardsley, if there are no other questions, board members, Ms. Campbell, no, none. Ms. Huggins, Mr. Steele,
No questions.
Ms. Temple, Ms. Temple,
No.
okay, Ms. Walker, okay, and we will all agree. And Mr. Beardsley, we thank you for your time, and tell your family and your father, who started all of this years ago for us, thank him and his wife, that you all stay safe. Everybody stay safe, okay? And thank you again.
And
We will be calling you during our school board meetings for clarity, okay?
very good. Dr. McGee, I will follow up with you tomorrow before I make any phone calls so that we stay on the same page.
Okay, then thank you, and I appreciate it. Make sure you talk to Dr. McGee.
Very good.
So
Thanks,
can
Paul.
he have it, for us. Okay, and thank you very much for your time. And good evening. All right, I've classified salary schedules coming from Dr. Jacob Smith. Mrs. Smith, where are you?
I'm right here, ma'am.
And good evening, Dr. Smith. You are here to make your presentation on the 2021 proposed salary schedule that's on page 4 of our documentation. You may begin, sir.
Yes, ma'am. So there's a lot of salary schedules on the classified side. It's also important to know that our speech language pathologists were lumped into this as well, but they are on the licensed side too. So that was a misnomer that I dealt with all week, but their salary schedules had not been addressed through the board. And so if there was going to be any change, we wanted to provide the most accurate contract. So that's how I'm going to jump in moving forward. Brian is going to kind of do this hand in hand because there's so many moving parts within all of these salary schedules that what we originally proposed was not feasible. We kind of did a give and take between myself, Dr. McGee, him, and members of the previous administration. And we've just been having an active conversation. And so, Brian, do you want to jump in on the first bit of these proposed salary schedule calculations?
Sure. And I apologize. My phone has died, and that was what had my camera on it. My computer does not have a camera, so I've got my voice. But as part of the salary schedule calculation, we included the summary page. It's the page that's labeled proposed salary schedule calculations. And let me see. I believe that is that starts page 4 of your packet.
Okay.
So what we did was we calculated based on what was provided to us by HR. We did some initial calculations. We looked at a total cost, decided that we had to reduce those original proposals. We met and decided on some areas that we could reduce those initial costs. I think our first cost came in at 1.9 million. If you recall, we on the license side, we invested 1.2 million. The budget for this proposed change in the classified was 400,000 was the range that I had given you, and that's for the operational budget. So what we've done is we've actually brought you a calculation for each salary schedule, the change, and then the impacted cost. So if you look at page 1 of that, or page 4 of your packet, it's actually page 1 of those proposed salary schedule calculations. The first one is 5P2, information technology. And so if you look at the middle column, the proposed current net, the $12,829.31, that's the proposed net difference in the old schedule and new schedule. And then we have to also take into account payroll taxes. So we have to account for Medicare tax, which is 1.45%, Social Security, that's 6.2%, and ATRS. ATRS is going up to 14.5% next year. So the total impact of that particular change is $15,671. So that sort of walks you through that first line, and that applies to every other salary schedule that we've run calculations on. So, Jake, you want to walk them through each of those salary schedules?
Sure.
See if you have any questions regarding those. And what we've done, we've put our salary schedules in order that they're listed on this summary page. So as we go through, we are hoping that that would keep it as organized as possible for you as a board member.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
The proposed current net difference, is that like the total for those 10 employees, or is that per employee, or?
No, that's the total for those 10 employees. So the proposed, what we did was we had our system calculate, we put in the new schedule. We have the old one in there. The system ran the difference between Schedule 1 and Schedule 2, calculated a total salary cost difference. This difference takes into account not only the salary schedule change, but also the steps that, so if you had an employee that stepped from step 10 to step 11, this process calculation took that into consideration as well. So this includes salary schedule changes and steps for those 10 employees, and then you apply the payroll taxes across to get the total impact of $15,671.
Okay.
And Brian, before you jump off, will you discuss that very last page with the total increase and how we got to the number? It's right after all the summations.
Dr. Smith,
Yes,
would you
ma'am.
explain to maybe teachers that are out there looking and they couldn't find on the website, they were only looking at, 2019? It was an old one that hadn't been revised yet. Would you explain that? I think I'd asked you that prior to this meeting.
Yes, ma'am. So we created a new folder once the teachers and administrators salary schedule was passed, but we had no new salary schedules in addition to that. And so we posted those with the new 2021 schedule. And that is what is located right now. If we get to pass new salary schedules that are applicable to the 2021 year, then we will go and do a new upload to make sure we are accurate for next fiscal year.
So that was the big question then of why they saying they were looking at something old, because there was nothing present for them to look at.
Yeah, that is our current salary schedule. That is what we have available right now. And if we pass something, then we'll be able to go back and adjust that.
Because what you're saying, we never passed anything, that's why it never changed. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
And that's why it was still, but this salary schedule will be posted, the new one.
If it is passed, yes, ma'am.
But if it's passed by us. Okay, Ms. Campbell? A question, if you want to continue, Dr. Smith, if there were questions from the board.
Okay. Brian, did you hear me in regards to the last page of those summations. Yes.
So is this what you're talking about?
Yes, sir. Will you take them through that?
Yes. So what I'll do, I've actually emailed a correction. We had one small correction that we applied to page 5 in your packet. It was to the nurses. We actually have 16 nurses, not 18. And I've emailed you a corrected copy of this that has those 2 nurses taken out. But during our budgeting process, sometimes we have to enter placeholders. At the time we're posting budget, if we have an opening, we actually have to enter a phantom person in our budgeting system and predict a salary so that it will project a budget for that particular position that's open. We had 2 phantom positions in nurses that were still in there that were a holdout from a prior year where we had entered those, but I've reduced those. And if you'll notice that we've also reduced the proposed current net difference for the nurses and the total here, and that trickles down here. So I just wanted to go through, we've adjusted this particular total increase. So what we're showing, the total increase that we are discussing tonight for classified is $988,917.26. We have reduced that total by $315,578.10 because that is funded out of child nutrition. That's funded out of Fund 8. That Fund 8 is not our operational budget. So we're removing that total. Child nutrition is, in North Little Rock, is an exception to the way child nutrition actually operates across the state. Most schools have to bail out their child nutrition program annually. They don't earn enough from income and reimbursements to actually make their program profitable. Our program is profitable. They operate in the black every year. And so I have removed their individual raises because it's paid out of Fund 8 and they do have the reserves to pay that. I've also removed $111,233, and that's 2/3 of our highly qualified aides because those aides are paid out of other funds. We only have 1/3 of the aides that are paid out of operational. The other 2/3 are paid out of mostly Title I, but maybe NSL, maybe ALE. There are several funds that actually fund those aides. So we've removed every aide salary that was not a part of operation. We also have some 5P1 employees, that salary schedule 5P1, that are funded out of other funds other than operation. We've removed those. Also secretaries, we have secretaries that are funded. The federal programs coordinator secretary is one. The child nutrition, there's a secretary there. There's secretaries at the ALE. All of those are funded in different funds. We've removed those and compensated there. And then tonight, you'll also hear from us about using time clocks and paying actual time versus guaranteed time. You'll hear some talk about that when we get to especially the transportation department. We're projecting actual time payments to be a savings in overtime to us of $110,000. So with these changes that we're talking about, the total increase by the salary schedules, compensating for those schedules that are not paid out of operating, and then the projected OT savings by using time clocks and actual time, we are projecting to be within the $424,000 range, which is where we wanted to be with our proposal to you. And that would be the total impact on the operational budget, $424,000.
Questions, board members? Or not yet? Okay.
I'd like to hear out everything and then I've got to a slew of
Hey,
questions.
Ms. Huggins? Well, Brian, do the schedules reflect the required salaries for all employees? Mr. Brown?
Ms. Williams, I can speak to that. And the way we built the schedules was with the minimum wage raise in mind. And so to answer your question, yes, they reflect the minimum wage requirements that are going to be placed on the district next year.
Okay. Questions? Ms. Temple?
Are we above the minimum wage at this point? Or did you go just to the next year's minimum wage, or what do you, that answer wasn't clear to me. I mean,
I can answer that, Ms. Temple. I can answer that.
Okay.
We went to we used the January 1, 2021 $11 minimum wage as our start point. So the proposals that we are proposing tonight, or that we're discussing tonight, actually use $11 as the starting wage. That will be above the minimum wage until January, and then in January it will be equal to the minimum wage.
Okay. All right.
Questions? Ms. Temple, did you have your hand?
I did have one more question. Just in looking at this, didn't we just do a increase for the speech pathologist? Didn't we do that this past year?
Yes.
I think that's before my time, Ms. Temple. I think that is the information that was given to me. The conversation that was had with the previous leadership is that we were going to try to give something to everybody across the board. Didn't want anybody to be left out. And so that directions my office was given.
All right. Well, I guess the reason I'm asking is because when we did this just a few board meetings ago, the principal was left out, and the answer was he had just recently got a raise. So I was just, I'm trying to be fair and consistent. That, yeah.
Okay. Other questions? Oh, at this time, reading your total report, Mrs. Smith, someone asked, would you explain why the transportation department that their revenue is so high, please?
Yes, ma'am. So I believe it was one of the first board meetings I was a part of. Some of the board members had the conversation about how we were having such difficulty attracting drivers and keeping good bus drivers and getting our buses to, run on time and all those things, because we have a shortage is one of the issues. And so we have subs that function as full-time drivers. Well, it's because we're not competitive. And so that is one of the big conversations that has been had between Michael Stone, Scott Tyler, myself, Brian Brown, Dr. McGee. Everybody has been a part of that. And whenever you look at surrounding districts, $16 an hour brought up from 12, I believe, is it's about where everybody is. That's going to put us right on line with Jacksonville. It's going to put us pretty close to Little Rock and Pulaski County. And so we should be able to attract and keep some good drivers and compensate them for what the surrounding areas are compensating them for. And so that was the big adjustment. Now the conversation that we're kind of jumping ahead before we get to the salary schedule, where Brian alluded to it, was that part of this change was as we reached out how people are functioning in those departments, and we need to have a conversation with the bus drivers and everything else, which has not been done, but we wanted to bring this information to you guys, is that the only way we can afford this jump is if we go to a straight time system, which is where we were a couple years ago, and then they went to this guaranteed time. Well, a lot of that decision, my understanding was because we were hand keying time cards and information into the system to get people paid. Well, we now have time clocks in place in order to do that, and those are time clocks. They snap a picture, you do your fingerprint, and it basically is an automated system now we now have available to us. And Brian, did I misspeak in any regards to that, or is there anything I left out?
Okay, and you had stated in your other meeting, prior meeting that we had, that you were changing the bus drivers from 8 hours to 6 hours, but then you indicated in your schedule was 5.8. Would you explain that?
Yes, ma'am. So that is based on our current salary schedule that we have in e-finance. We guaranteed time. What we are doing now is we are asking to give the raise, but we are asking to go to a true time system. And so with that, there had to be some trickery done in e-finance. And so we brought the bus drivers from 8 hours to 6 hours on the current salary schedule at the behest of the transportation director. Well, now that we are approaching new salary schedules and we are trying to address this issue, with us trying to be competitive, we need to kind of give and take a little bit, if that makes sense. And so that 5.8 is just a marker. But what Jacksonville does is they put all their drivers on 5 hours. And if you drive 6 hours, then they go back and adjust that 5 hours to 6. If you drive 4 hours, they go back and adjust that 5 to 4. And that's how they keep their system in line, I guess, with the way they pay.
Okay, because some people were feeling that if you're paying, so you really did, would you tell me how you deducted it? People weren't really working 8 hours?
Yes, ma'am. There was guaranteed time is what it was. And so some of these routes, somebody might not be driving exactly 4 hours on the dot, if that makes sense. And they were a 4-hour driver. Well, that's what we're trying to eliminate now, is that effect where we are paying extra for work not done.
Okay. Other board members, Ms. Campbell?
Ms. Campbell, you're still on mute, ma'am.
The thing that I have a question about is the bus drivers and what we're going to do with running routes. Some of them drive more than one route. We're going to have to stop and clean the buses up now for next fall.
Yes, ma'am. I know the buses have been thoroughly cleaned since the stop of the bus drivers running, but that'll be something that I'm sure Dr. McGee and myself will address with Mr. Tyler on about how we're going to accomplish that.
Yeah, because it's going to have to be done.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and also in your report, I asked you, I don't guess it's for the good of the board, that the superintendent secretary, you said the schedule was cut. That's the reason we couldn't see it.
Yes, ma'am. And I believe Brian attached that in the email he sent to you guys. It should be at the very end. There was a row 5 that was cut off when it printed, and I apologize. I didn't notice it was accounted for in the bottom part of the schedule where it said superintendent secretary, but the lane was not present in the actual salary schedule.
Okay, and the communications on page 59, communications coordinator, why was it not listed? Page 56, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. In the if we have a job that is non-licensed or licensed, and there is coordinator in the title or director in the title, the salary schedule accounts for that. And so that is how we fit. It's the other jobs that are defined that don't fit into one of those titles. For example, our parental engagement professionals, they are on that particular lane because they are defined below the salary schedule in that professional other column.
Okay, so that salary does not have to be listed?
It falls underneath the coordinator salary schedule.
Okay.
And so the coordinator lane that is listed, the non-licensed coordinator, that's where that would fall.
Okay, so we're listed under that. Question from last week that when he made the report, I'll go back again and ask the board members, Dr. Smith, if they have any questions. Ms. Campbell? Did you hear Dr. Smith?
No, ma'am.
Oh, she's getting a mic.
Okay, on HR, finance, new schedule, 9 employees, $49,869.14.
Yes, ma'am.
Please explain that to me.
Yes, ma'am. Finance really took the lead on this, and we had the conversation with the previous administration about figuring out how we were going to update our salary schedules and make them better fit the layout of our district, I guess is the best way to say it. And so we have never had a salary schedule in regards to that. And as you guys can see in the board packet, I don't know what page it's on, but there is some comparisons done about where we would fall if this was approved in regards to other districts. And so Brian did the legwork. He had the conversations and kind of built this, and we looked at it together, and it seemed pretty novel. Again, we just are bringing it to you guys. There are people within finance, there are people who are in HR that are paid on the secretary salary schedules that do not are not secretaries.
Okay. I'm going down. Ms. Huggins.
No, I'm just absorbing all the information.
Ms.
Okay.
Williams.
Mr. Steele.
Yes, it's a couple questions. Are the step increases the same across the board? And I particularly want you to address the custodians. Somewhere I saw that their step increase was not as much.
Yes, sir. So we had, again, I inherited some documents. I went back with the previous administration, did a bunch of work to them, and then it was given to Brian. And whenever Brian ran the numbers, that was the conversation at the beginning of this board meeting. We were way over budget. And so the charge was given back to finance, and Brian and Makisha really sat down and they scaled things back by percentages. They kind of had a method to their madness where they had a range in which they wanted to see people get to and get a certain amount of money added to their I guess total yearly salary based on the work they do. But it was the decisions that were made were based on the amount of money we had left and available. And so in regards to the custodial salary schedule, what are your specific questions, Mr. Steele?
Mr. Smith, I can address a little bit of that. The original schedules for custodians that we were given, the initial calculation was $192,000, and custodians are paid out of operating. They're on 100% paid out of operating, and our budget was $400,000. So what we had to do was we had to scale that back. Custodians were going to take about half of the allotted budget, and custodians were getting one of the biggest raises because of the minimum wage increase. And so what we did was we looked at the calculation, the increase by steps. So there are some steps at the beginning of the custodian schedule that have $11 as the starting pay. But those, if you look at those particular steps, those steps were the ones that were increasing the largest. So what we did was we kept those steps at $11, those pay increments at $11 for the first like 6 or 7 steps. I'd have to look at the schedule to refresh my memory.
It's 5.
The first 5 steps were $11. So we had to do that to control the cost. Now that is something I think that we could do. That was my adjustment that I made to get that within budget, reduce that overall cost. I told Mr. Smith in our conversations about that, of course, as money becomes available in future, we can definitely go back and look at adding to those steps and getting those, getting an increment for the first 5 years. But the schedule that we had to calculate initially, right now, the one we're talking about tonight, has the first 5 steps at $11.
So are you saying you added the minimum wage increases to their
Yeah.
their step increases?
Yes, their steps and the minimum wage were both considered. The schedule compensates for steps and it compensates for the minimum wage.
Well, I mean, if you're already below minimum wage until we increase it, that's not an advantage that you even started where you were actually working for our district below minimum wage. I would really like, as one board member, our custodians are very important and dedicated. Many of them have been with us a long time. That's why you guys to reevaluate and look at that. I certainly don't think they should be punished for working below minimum wage.
Okay.
That
Another question too, Dr. Smith. I love the way you compare our district with other districts. What about the superintendent's secretaries? Seem like there are more people making more money than she does, and she worked 10-hour days. Would you look that information up for us?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
certainly would like to see something in that somebody's in this building with just a high school education making that much money.
Absolutely.
And she is far more qualified. So would you just look that up when you have time?
Yes,
Not
ma'am.
today, but at the next board meeting. I'd just like to hear that. I appreciate what you do about the comparisons, but I know this is North Little Rock and we're different, a little bit different, okay? I want to ask you another question too. Did
Yes, ma'am.
you, by any chance on this, I want to talk this to Mr. Brown. We asked Mr. Beardsley. Mr. Brown, come in, please.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay. Tell about our finance, the North Rock School District finance. Give me a full report on it. How solvent are we? So I want to hear this conversation and more.
Yes, the finances of North Little Rock, we are sound. We do have a reduction in student enrollment. We've discussed that since 2017-18. We've had a reduction of about 300 students. That's what's generating that $1 million in a declining enrollment. But as you all know, those board members that met with the administration individually, we gave you a plan that we're addressing that. Since we have a reduction in revenue, we will also be addressing and reducing our expenditures. What we're talking about tonight, our classified salary schedules, that is taken into consideration. We're saying that we can afford the proposed salary schedules we're proposing to you, but we're also going to reduce expenditures to compensate for that loss of desegregation funding. So we are, and as you heard tonight with Mr. Beardsley, he's saying that our assessment with ADE has now been certified, which is involved in next year's funding. We are going to see some increased funding, local funding from our assessment. So that is a plus for the district as well. But our financial situation is good. Our financial, we are solid financially as long as we continue to address our expenditures and make sure that as our revenue decreases, our expenditures decrease appropriately.
Ms. Campbell, any comments? Okay, Ms. Huggins?
No comments.
Okay, Mr. Steele?
No comments.
Okay, Ms. Temple?
Yes, I'm just back to what Sandy said about the HR people. Brian did show us where he looked at all the bookkeepers, but there isn't any comparison for the HR. Did you do that? Do you have the comparison with the other districts for the HR generalists?
Brian said that the finance and the HR work hand in hand, which is why we did them together. And so that was the conversation that was had with me. And as he was building this, I think he said that both of those kind of work together.
Okay.
Other, okay.
Then for the bus drivers, back to the bus drivers, we were paying some teachers overtime. With this new salary rate for bus drivers, are we going to be able to eliminate that overtime with teacher drivers? I mean, is that going to fix that problem?
Brian, do you want to speak to
that? Yes.
Um,
I can speak to that. All right. So with the transportation, we're proposing an increase in the pay rate, but we're also proposing that we pay actual time, and we're also proposing that we do not guarantee time, whether that's to an actual bus driver or to what we call dual drivers. The dual drivers are drivers that have a primary job within the district, but they're driving as a secondary job. We are proposing that all drivers be paid actual time since we're increasing the rates. We in the finance office think we can fund this totally by paying the actual drive time at the new rates and eliminating the guaranteed time. I've got some data that we've collected. We've paid right around $200,000 in overtime to drivers, mostly to dual drivers. We think if we pay that straight time, the district will be out $100,000, and we're going to end up saving around $110,000 in the overtime for dual drivers. So yes, the dual drivers were a part of the guaranteed time system that Mr. Smith was talking about. And I'll speak to that. The guaranteed time was something that I inherited when I came into the finance department, but we have, from my understanding and talking with Mr. Stone and Mr. Tyler, we had to guarantee time to drivers because our pay rate was so low. We had to be competitive. And so what we've done is we've raised our pay rates, and we're going to propose that we do what other districts are doing, which is pay an adequate competitive rate, but we're also going to propose that we pay actual drive time. So we're just going to use the time clocks and pay based on that.
Okay. But do you think that will limit the need for dual drivers? Or you think we're still going to need those?
I think there'll still be a need for dual drivers, but I think we're going to reduce our cost regarding dual drivers. We're not going to pay the guaranteed rates. We'll just pay the actual drive times. They'll still earn overtime. It just will not be guaranteed, and it will not be in excess of what they're actually driving.
Okay. And then one more.
I think the new rates will also allow Mr. Tyler to recruit additional full-time drivers. So you have to consider that as well. A dual driver that was, let's say, a dual driver that's driving 4 hours and is earning overtime. So that dual driver would cost us $25 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
$25 an hour would fund a full-time driver at normal rates. So I believe since our salary schedule or hourly rate will be more competitive, it will allow Mr. Tyler to hire additional full-time drivers. And if we don't need the dual drivers, we'll have drivers to replace that.
Are we still going to have people who drive the bus that also have class?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So teachers, let's just talk about that. So there's two types of dual drivers. There's a dual driver that's whose primary job is hourly, and there's a dual driver whose primary job is a classroom teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So an hourly person may be a campus supervisor who drives a bus, or an aide who drives the bus, or it's just an hourly position and they drive, they qualify for overtime. A licensed teacher who drives a route, licensed teachers are exempt from overtime, so they do not qualify. They would only earn straight time pay for their bus routes. We would still have, there are some special drivers that drive, like for the ALE or special education, and those are special circumstances where you have people who know the students. They would still have the opportunity to drive those routes if they chose to do so.
Okay.
With Mr. Brown, will they receive benefits?
Yeah, they get benefits.
Yes, they receive benefits regarding their primary job. So if they are a teacher, if they're an aide, or if they're a campus supervisor and they have chosen to receive health insurance or other benefits through the district, they would still receive that.
Okay. Ms. Walker, you were next person.
All right, I've got a few questions here. On IT 5P2, just so you can follow along, it's 191 days. And then I've got the 5P3, 245 day schedule. That's a pretty good little jump there. Can you explain that for me?
So are you talking about the 5P2 that is on the website and the 5P2 that is being proposed? Is that what we're discussing?
Well, I'm on packet page 10 and packet page 147, if that helps you.
Oh, yes. Okay. So basically with our salary schedules, if there is a salary schedule in 191 days and then somebody is paid off that salary schedule and then they work, let's say 245, for example, like a normal tech, you would take the salary for the 191 days, you would divide by 191 daily rate of pay, and then you would.
No, I got that. I know basic math. No.
Okay.
What I'm trying to understand, I'm sorry, is the difference. What are the qualifications between the 191 versus the 245?
The days they work.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But again, what qualifies the difference between one working 245 days versus working 191 days?
It is just how the position is hired, ma'am. Does that make sense? And so if we hire for 191 day tech, then that tech would only be here the 191 days. Like, for example, while the nurses are here. If it's a full year 245 tech, then that person would be here all year long. And so it's the same job description.
So same job description, different days, but what qualifies one over the other as far as how many days they work is more or less the question. It's 191 versus 245. I get the salary. I understand that. But what makes me a 245 day and Sandy a 191 day?
How the position is posted. And so if the board determines that there is a need for 191 day tech, then we post it as 191 day tech. If it's determined that it's needed as a 245, then it's posted as a 245.
It all depends on the need, doesn't it? But the number of days when you increase. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Traditionally, it has just been whatever they were hired on is what they stay on. And so if there needs to be conversation about days adjusted or what, that's outside of the bounds of the way it's been treated in the past. But we can definitely have that conversation.
Let's have that conversation to see if 245 is needed. How about, let's go there.
Fair enough.
So coming to page 47.
Okay.
Is this out of Title I funds?
Uh, 47. This would be out of our special services budget. And so I work directly. You are speaking about the PTA salary schedule. Yes, we have no one on that salary schedule. This is a brand new proposed salary schedule. This was done in conjunction with HR and our Executive Director of Special Services. Again, we did a comparison. These are numbers that she has said that she can afford, and will, again, before we ever hire a position or anything of the sort, I'm sure Leanne will have a discussion with Mr. Brown and with the board about why the need for this position exists. I think the reason other school districts have moved to this format is so you can get away with serving students without a full-blown physical therapist or occupational therapist, because a PTA and a CODA, they can work underneath the license of a occupational therapist or a physical therapist. And so the intent is to create another option for special services to fill the need for our students.
Very good, thank you. All right, coming back to page 42.
Okay.
Is this Title I?
Ryan, can you speak to that? I believe the discussion you had with the aides is that there's a portion of them that comes out. I am.
So it's
Correct. Sorry, I was trying to navigate my mute button and all the documents on my computer. Yes, a portion of that, about 1/3 of the aides that are employed in the district are paid out of operating. The other 2/3 are paid out of other funds, which include Title I. It also includes NSL. It also includes ALE. It includes special education, 6B. It includes some state funding for special education. So it's federal and state both. So yes, to answer your question, some of those, it's about 1/3 that is paid out of operating. The other 2/3 are paid out of other various funding sources.
okay. So now we're going to go to page 58, and we're going to use packet page 15, but you gave us the new range with number 5 on there. Does that make sense?
Page 58.
58.
Okay.
Page
So the non-licensed professional salary schedule?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to compare it more to the clerical salary schedule.
Okay.
Okay. So 58 is the non-licensed professional. Is this Title I?
Brian? I know some of the positions are like PEPs come out of Title I. Human service workers, I believe, come out of Title I. The parent liaison and homeless comes out of McKinney, Vento, and Title I. So
that's correct. A portion of those salaries out of that are funded out of funds other than funding source other than operating. So those that he just mentioned, ones that are funded out of other operating sources, such as Title I.
Okay, so I'm going to get to the chase here. I have a huge issue with the PEPs being paid more than my secretaries, because my secretaries have e-school authorization and the PEPs do not. So the PEPs, although they're great and we value them, I don't like that they're being paid more than my secretaries who've been with us a long time, who have done wonderful things for us, to us, greet us, and I would like to take care of my secretaries moreover than the PEPs. That's just the way I feel about it.
Yes, ma'am. And I think we had this conversation, is that the recommendation that is coming to you guys through the reduction in force, which includes our partial non-renewals and non-renewals. The PEPs have been, we've asked that the PEPs be taken back from a 207 to a 191. And so that addresses some of the pay and some of those issues. I know that I know that some of the principals as well have reached out in regards to providing extended contracts for some of their PEPs because of the job they're doing. And so we're working with finance and myself and Dr. McGee to kind of figure out how we're going to address that, if we're going to give that blessing or not.
I think just from the finance standpoint, what we would recommend is we proceed with the 191 reduction for PEPs. And then on a case-by-case basis, we would work with the principals, HR, and those individual PEPs, and we would just do an hourly, we wouldn't actually extend contracts. We would just have them turn in timesheets for the additional work that they would do beyond the 191 day. But I think they would need to submit that through the appropriate channels and get that approved. But from the finance standpoint, it would be that we proceed with the reduction to 191 for PEPs and then just work on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
Would job descriptions help with the number of days that, like you were asking, should it be 245 or 190? Would the job descriptions help that?
The job descriptions, I believe, are outside of the bounds of the amount of time. The amount of time is attached to the job description. So for example, we have 6-hour campus supervisors at the elementary and 8-hour campus supervisors at the high school. And so with that conversation, the job description does not change from one to the other, even though we understand that there are different roles, but I mean, the description is still the same. But whenever you accept the job, it is with the expectation that you either have 6 hours or you have 8 hours. And so that's kind of attached to the job that we hire for. And so if we're having a conversation again about like the tech side of things, if the board and Mr. Staggers and the meeting of the minds comes together and we would like to hire some 191s to help out with the swell that exists whenever kids are in school, then that might be something we can talk about. I know traditionally the job has been hired as a 245 because there's so much work in regards to our technology and updates and all of the above. I mean, when you're talking about 8,000 kids and 1,400 staff members, most of them having computers, that's 9,400 pieces of technology that need to pretty much be updated on a yearly basis and then and resystemed and redone to make sure that everything's up to date for the next year.
Mr. Brown, what is CIO?
Chief Information Officer.
What?
CIO and CFO, that stands for Chief Information Officer, Chief Financial Officer.
Chief Information Officer.
Chief
Okay,
Information Officer. That usually goes along with the CFO title because my department handles all of the financial information and Kathy Hale in my department handles all of the student information. So all financial and employee data comes through eFinance. All student data goes through eSchool. Both of those are housed within the finance department. So it's Chief Information Officer and Chief Financial Officer.
Okay. And you need all of this? And we have people that, excuse me, so I can clarify what I'm saying, Mr. Brown. You said you need 2 chief financial officers?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. My title is CFO, but CIO goes along with it. It's just a part of my title for my department. It's just me here.
So it's a new position?
No, not a new position. It's
just haven't been placed.
Right. I think it's been on that salary schedule. I think it's just the title in the lane was updated or something, the header. It's not, we are not proposing a new position in my department. It's just, I'm the CFO and also all the information flows through my department. So I'm also the Chief Information Officer for the district.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's go back on this, please. Ms. Walker was the last one to speak. Were you through, Ms. Walker?
No, ma'am.
You can go ahead, okay.
Okay, so now I'm on transportation. So page 95. We spoke briefly on bus drivers, but that is something separate from transportation. Transportation, I'm looking at shop foreman, bus mechanic helper, trainer, dispatcher. Again, 245 days. I'm going to assume that because of what you said about the IT, we need children not here so we can update and take care of things in order to participate.
Yes, ma'am. That's the conversation as I understand it, is that there's work done all summer long on our buses to make sure that they're ready to go again. And, you know, again, with things like summer school and summer activities and stuff like that, if buses are running during that time too, we do have kind of a skeleton crew as far as drivers and everything else is concerned, but those departments don't just shut down. I mean, they're working all summer long as well.
I can also add to that, Ms. Walkham. Our buses undergo an annual inspection by the state. They come in and they go, you know, through the buses. They do the inspections. The summer, we take care of our buses, of course, all throughout the year, but the summertime is the time to get all the maintenance done. And you have ripped seats or you have tires that need to be replaced. All of that maintenance happens during the summer when a lot of our fleet is down, but we still have buses that operate in the past for summer school, not necessarily this summer, but there's a lot of maintenance that happens during those off times during the summer.
During the off time, would that be when the cameras are being installed as well right now?
Yes, ma'am. The 20 cameras on the 20 buses that are being installed?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, last one before I start on something else. The maintenance salary. Honestly, it seems a little low to me. And I'm looking and comparing it to other areas that we have proposed the salary schedule calculations. Maintenance seems a little low. I understand not all of them may have degrees, but licensed journeymen, electricians, plumbers, I do value those. I think they do save our district money in the long run from calling a secondary individual in.
Absolutely.
Okay. Before we end this, I've heard a good talk on the buses, but deep down in my heart, I have to be very honest. I was very disappointed because this past year, the board voted for one thing, Mr. Smith, and seemed like you continue to do something else. Buses coming to my neighborhood would be 45 minutes late, and those children had to stand out in the cold or the rain. And we are investing money in the bus drivers, but I don't know what you need to do, but it needs to be a sitting down, getting together, because it was totally an embarrassment last year. And any parent, grandparent, or grandmother, I got too many calls, complaints about the buses being late. And when I saw you reduction, and the concern I had when I saw the reduction, I thought you were talking about, you know, getting rid of bus drivers, but we need them, but we need them to get on time. That middle school, I don't blame parents. It's a problem. Buses not getting there on time. 3 neighborhoods, Road City, Glenview, and Glen Lee, cannot get buses, our children home on time. And that, to me, is a problem. And I would like to see it resolved before school starts. I want equity in everybody's job, Dr. Smith. They said maintenance. Mr. Steele talked about the custodians. And then we have the secretaries. We need some equity. We don't need to be piling up money on other things when we need to be paying people who are doing good jobs for us. Because the custodians, that is atrocious when you look at their salaries. They may not have the education, but if they done a good day's work, they ought to be paid for the work. And so I would encourage you, Mr. Brown, Dr. Smith, that when you are the other person that works with you in this department, look at all of it. But let's be fair and equitable with all of our employees. And I know what you were doing tonight, but you heard the board, secretary, custodians, maintenance, whatever we can do to keep our, just the same way you did about the buses. You said to keep those employees, you bumped the salaries. I want to keep good secretaries. So find a way, Mr. Brown, that you say we've Sullivan, we've saved a lot of money because of the pandemic. So you give them a little something. But I'm total agreement with Mr. Steele, Ms. Walker, Ms. Campbell, and then Ms. Temple, would you please for me reiterate about the bus situations that I had forestated on, that you felt that was never solved or resolved?
Oh, yeah, 'cause I just saw the same thing. I saw it firsthand going to the middle school. It did get better as the year went on, but those kids were coming out of school and waiting and waiting and waiting to get on the bus. And there's not enough people there to supervise them. And they'd start off with a friendly push, playing with each other, and then it gets out of hand, and then you got to fight. And it's all because they're waiting on a bus. And yeah, we need to do better about picking them up and dropping them off. It just wasn't good this year at all.
Well, that has to do with the schedule. We vote no to change that schedule, and then it ended up changing anyway?
We changed it anyway. Yes, absolutely.
So we may need to revisit that with Dr. McGee, Scott Tyler, Michael Stone, I hear has a hand in that. So we may need to revisit that they did what the board did not want them or wish or vote to do.
Exactly. I was not opposed to it, but the board as a whole said no, but it happened anyway.
And I think that we more or less didn't, I started realizing it when administrators from the building start calling me. And then when parents start calling, and we don't need that, we can do better. North Rock is a great place to be. All we have to do is work together and move forward. And that's what we're going to do. Hey, it's 7:19. Officially, our board meetings are over at 7:30. And I see Ms. Walker got her hand up in the air like she don't care.
No, I have a question. We still need to discuss the superintendent search firms before we.
Oh, yes. We have two superintendent search packets that we're supposed to look at. And since you got them, and I did see one, Ms. Campbell, we had talked about, but it's looking pretty good to me. So what we will do, if you would take this packet and read it over, and we will take a vote at the board meeting and read them thoroughly to see what these companies are offering. Please do that. That's the only way you can be objective. Let's don't talk about hearsay. Let's talk about what we read in the packet and what they will do for us for the monies. And one, $4,000, one, $2,000, but everything cheap is not good. We're looking at the future of our children. Okay, so one other thing that we're gonna have to do, thank you, Ms. Walker, we're gonna have to do here is celebrate some other people today. And those people that I want you to celebrate today, because we have a parade at 8:20 that we're celebrating some fantastic seniors. But if Mr. Jennings is on right now, I would like for him to get us a heads up on this. Are you there, Mr. Jennings?
I don't think he's on, Madam President, but we would like to extend the invitation to have all of the board members to come out and show the support of those seniors, this parade that's going to take place here shortly. So
She can't hear. Hang on, Dr. McGee. Give us 1 second. She's having a moment. I apologize. We're trying to get her back up and running. Sorry.
no problem.
Oh, her computer went dead. I apologize. Technical difficulties, we apologize.
Tell them to go ahead and talk about the celebration.
Okay, Dr. McGee, she says go ahead and talk about it, please.
Well, we just want to extend an invitation to come out and show the support of our seniors who have had a unusual year to their senior year. We just want to try to brighten this, even though it's raining. We want to give them something to smile about with the non-traditional graduation. The virtual graduation is occurring this week, and tonight, the actual night that they would have graduated. We are having a parade. We are excited about the parade. We're going to have the lights on in the stadium for 20 minutes. And then they're going to just do a drive-through with their signs out with the seniors' pictures posted. We just want to extend a warm invitation to come out and show how proud we are of the senior class of 2020, even during this COVID-19 period.
Hey, very good. And one other celebration we have, we got our packets for the retired teachers. And what did you come up with, Dr. McGee?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I have that here. I was going to share that. I would like to do a virtual celebration. I know we normally have a luncheon, but due to COVID-19, I would like to do a virtual celebration that we can do something live and having the drive-through right here at the central office and have their plaque. Maybe I know they get a monetary donation from the district. Maybe we can have a little check, a post check. I know that we're going to direct deposit that monetary account, but we can just have a presentation and have it posted live. I hope the board members will agree with me that we can do something special that way as a non-traditional virtual celebration to those retirees.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Do we have a date for that? Do we have a date for that? When is that?
We wanted to get your input before we begin planning. We're going to work with our communication coordinator to go ahead and have a date plan, and we'll just try to see if we can get it on everybody's calendar to come and do that wonderful celebration to our retirees.
Okay, now I thought it sounded good to me. What about you all?
Yeah, that's fine. That'd be great.
Okay,
That sounds
at
good.
this time, that is great. Celebrating our graduates and people retiring that's been in the district for 40 years. It's all right. Okay, at this time, we just want to say something to the parents, the grandparents, the uncles, the brothers, the sisters, cousins. Miss Campbell, what do you have to say in celebration to all this wonderful help we've had this year in this pandemic?
I've been real proud of the kids that live in my neighborhood, which I have quite a few that are seniors. They've behaved and they've been good and they've done what they were supposed to. And I haven't had any complaints in my area at all.
Very good. Ms. Huggins?
I just want to say thank you to all our families and all of our kids who have worked hard over these last few weeks. It's been difficult. It's been hard. And as the mother of one of these graduating seniors, it's kind of anticlimactic for us, but we're moving on and on to bigger and better things. So good job for all of our families for sticking together and getting these kids through this, and our parents for hanging on and getting through it too.
Mr. Steele?
Well, I'd just like to congratulate our 2020 graduates. I tell you, it has been an unprecedented year, a very unusual year, and want to just let them know, their parents know that even though this is unusual, that we will never forget. We will never forget them. As a matter of fact, we will always cherish them, certainly for what they have been through. Tonight is going to be exciting. They're already passing by. I'm hearing horns blowing already. So they do not lack enthusiasm. So they're one of the most creative classes that we've ever had, even in the midst of this very unusual pandemic that we're in the middle of. So I want to just salute them and salute their parents and their families for making sure and putting their arms around them and helping them to get to this point. Congratulations on your graduation.
Ms. Temple?
Yes, I would just say that this social isolation makes it very hard for us to show how much we appreciate you and how proud we are of you and everything that you've accomplished. But we really are, and we will do our best to show it in any way we can. And good job. This too shall pass.
Okay, Ms. Walker?
Parents, congratulations on teaching your children for the last few weeks. It's a different scenario when you at home have to work and in addition teach plus parent and then find food to put on the table later. So kudos to you parents for wearing many and multiple hats all at the same time. Thank you parents for your support during this pandemic that we're going through. We're all in this together.
Hey, we're so happy and proud of you. Words cannot articulate the joy that your parents must feel, your grandmother must feel, your aunts, your cousins, and your brothers. And we have that same joy within us. And we want to say congratulations, stay safe, and you can be whatever you want to be. As long as you remember dear old N.L. Ara, North Little Rock High School. If there is no further ado, we shall climax this meeting. And again, board members, thank you for all your support. Dr. McGee, where did you fade off to?
I am right here.
I'll give you a congratulations to the seniors, please.
Not only the seniors, I want to say congratulations to our seniors, but I want to say congratulations to all of our wonderful community and our parents. Without you, we wouldn't have a student body. We certainly want to salute our parents, but I am just overwhelmed with so much joy and excitement to see the senior that persevere through this unusual, uncharted time. I am just excited and ecstatic to be a part of wonderful family. Again, I just want to salute the class of 2020, the parents, and our wonderful community of North Little Rock School District and the city of North Little Rock. Thank you so much for what you guys are doing to pour into our students. Thank you so much. And let's not forget our wonderful staff, our administration, our teachers, our wonderful nurses, our custodians, our secretaries, all of the staff that work so hard, tremendously behind the scenes to ensure that all of our kids, the teaching and learning is continuing. I am just thankful for them and their leadership and their collaboration, this partnership to make our students successful and have a wonderful time and ease the tension during this COVID-19 period. So thank you again, board, for allowing me to serve as the interim. Thank you, parents. Thank you, students, that allow me just to serve you. And again, thank you so much and have a great evening.
Hey, and thank you. And thank the board. We had a very good meeting. And thank you all for your cooperation and coming together. And this is the last. Good night. Thank you. Everybody did swell, as the little Beaver said.